Thank you so much, Abby, for joining us here at the dwelling community. I really appreciate your time. I know you're super busy, so we managed to find this time to meet and just talk shop. So I think you can do a way better job just kind of introducing yourself to our dwell listeners. So just kind of tell us, what you do, what you've been up to lately.
Yeah, great, man. No, thanks for having me on the show. I certainly appreciate it. It's cool to see young people really doing well in media and content creation in the real estate world. We need more of you. So a lot of what I've been doing is residential, single family, multifamily acquisition, development. I guess I should have started with my name. That's generally a good thing, right? I think. So my name is Abhi Golhar. I'm the host of the daily radio show, Real Estate Deal Talk. I have a podcast as well. And a lot of just what I talk about and enjoy doing is talking about mindset. How can one go from zero to hero, right? And I started when I was like 18, 17, 18 in the real estate business, and I had no idea, right? Like I had no idea. I had no mentors. I take that back. I lie. I had one mentor in Ann Arbor, and he turned out to be a total failure. And as a result of that, I failed in a lot of my early real estate endeavors. But it takes that sometimes. But then it's the mental fortitude, that work ethic that you need to keep going. And that's what I love talking about. The deals that I do on a regular basis, raising capital for multifamily acquisition, value add stuff, just like we talked about, is definitely the way of my investment strategy. I'm a huge trend follower, so I like taking a look at where the market is right now and then adjusting for it. When I see a lot of noobs try to do single family new construction, then I think to myself, well, there has to be a better way, and there has to be a little bit of a market change at some point in time. So it's just this big equation, right? It's like if you're working out, you can't only do cardio, you have to do strength, you have to stretch out your body. Sometimes I'll forget to do cardio and I'll forget to stretch, but I'm always focused on strength conditioning. And then I wonder, wait, I'm still not achieving my peak potential. It's because I'm not paying attention to the equation.
So thank you so much for that introduction. Yes, there's a ton of stuff in there. You talked about how early you started, mentorship, I wasn't so great, and kind of how you've gone from, that stage to where you're at today. So let's just kind of try to unpack that a little bit. You were 18. Why real estate? You had probably friends that were partying, doing all kinds of stuff. Why real estate?
Man, so I was part of the Square Root Club. Do you know what that is?
No.
I had finished my first semester at Michigan, and I had just done terribly. I was part of an elite group of people whose square root of their GPA is higher than their GPA. Okay, so very embarrassing. Essentially, that means the square root of 4 is 2, the square root of 2 is 1. So in order for your GPA, your square root of the square root of your GPA to be higher than your GPA, that means your GPA is less than 1, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it means. And I was so depressed. I'm like, wow, I can't stand this. I don't know what I'm doing in life. There has to be a better way. And I was just down in the slumps. It was really bad for me. And I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I then went on to read Cash Flow Quadrant, The Guide to Investing, Think and Grow Rich. And I'm like, wow, if all of these millionaire, billionaire people, whatever, millionaire people, if they all have real estate in common, then I should learn how to evaluate and analyze and structure and invest in real estate deals. And I became passionate about it. And that's how I got my start. I was wholesaling cars, I was wholesaling notes, I started flipping in college, and then just things escalated from there.
Fantastic. So, wholesaling, right? That's always a big question, because quintessentially, people that want to go into real estate investing are like, hey, I don't have any money. I, don't have somebody to give me initial capital to go flip. So I'm just going to wholesale. Do you think or should that be the natural path for someone that doesn't really have that initial capital?
That's a good question. I would say, listen, if you like commercial real estate and if that's the way that you want to go, do that. Focus on what you want. Otherwise, there are enough people in the world to tell you what you should be doing and shouldn't be doing. Identifying your investment personality is super critical. It's super critical. Like if you don't want to spend a whole lot of money, but you still want the benefit of being a real estate investor, and doing transactions and completing transactions, then you know what? Wholesaling is probably a good way to go because you don't have a whole lot of financial exposure, right? At most, you're in a deal for a couple $100 or $1,000 or $1,500 in earnest money, and then you have to close by a certain time frame. If it doesn't work, then you can withdraw. Your earnest money is refundable, and you're good to go, right? So that, to me, represents somebody that may just be starting or that has very low tolerance for risk, and they want to get into the game. If you're a flipper and that's what you like to do because you're up at 2 o'clock in the morning watching reruns of Property Brothers, then great. You know, find a team. Team is really important. Understand how your local government works in terms of permitting. Find contractors, find agents, builders, hard money partners, other business partners that you can trust, and build a relationship with them because that's what's important in flipping, and be able to weather the storm if stuff doesn't work. Because believe me, there's no flip ever is perfect. There's always something, right? Even in buying and holding. If you are an individual that likes single family or multifamily buy and hold, and all you want is a check, you want a check like clockwork every single month in and month out, month in and month out, find a good property manager, identify what your buying criteria is, and then go from there. I like wholesaling. You know, I love wholesaling because if I take down a property, I can hold it for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, see that value appreciate, and then sell it off to a builder. That's great. If somebody wants to do a double close or assign a contract to a buyer, that works out well. And there's so many folks that make so much money in wholesaling, just only wholesaling. Like Sean Terry's one of them. This guy's insane, right? He does a couple $1 million a year in just wholesaling, not to mention his course. So it all depends on your investment personality is what I'm saying.
Investment personality. I've never, ever heard of that. So if I'm listening to this, I'm a dual listener and I'm like, wow, Abhi is talking about this investment personality. I've never even heard of it. What's that?
What kind of TV show do you like to watch?
Well,
are you like a Star Trek fan or like a Wheel of Fortune fan? Like if you were to choose Wheel of Fortune or Star Trek?
Probably no. I don't watch TV, to be honest, but my wife watches Steve Harvey. That show, that game show. I can't remember. I don't know what it's called now.
Yeah, that's fair. So that's really predictable, right? Like, and this is an example that I run through with mostly everybody is if you're going to pick the Star Trek route, then inherently you like adventure, right? You like the action, you like the stuff, and maybe you might have a higher risk tolerance. So maybe shadowing somebody that's been flipping, that is a developer, that is a contractor may make sense for you. So you can kind of get a little bit hardened, build those calluses, build that hardened soul for the thick skin that you need for flipping and for that world versus say Wheel of Fortune, right? You know what's going to happen. You know, there are going to be 3 contestants. You know, the wheel's going to spin. There's a certain amount of time. It's very predictable. So you might like wholesaling, or you might even like the check in the mail every single month from a property management company that's managing your single family portfolio, or even just 1 or 2 properties. That's where it starts. It starts with you. Everybody tries to figure out what the world is expecting of them without understanding who they are first in the investment mindset. And that's where the failure exists from the very beginning, right? It's like, I want to build a mansion, but I'm going to build that mansion on sand. But that sand is your mindset, right? So if you don't have the right mindset, that doesn't matter how big the property is. It's going to crumble at some point in time. But if you build a mansion on a nice rock hard foundation, then you're pretty much good to go.
Fascinating. Love that. Love that analogy. So I understand, let's say I'm a dual listener listening to this. Okay, so I kind of know what my investment personality is. Maybe I want to shadow someone. Mm-hmm. And you talked about having a mentor. Mm-hmm. What are the best practices in terms of finding a good mentor to kind of match that personality?
There's one 6-letter word that really matters. Action. You have to take action, right? Like you have to get business cards. Like seriously, go to Vistaprint or something online, get business cards, put your name on it, phone number, email address, and on the back say, I want to find a mentor. Or even do this, right? You're running a podcast or you do a video and you pitch your idea of how you can add value to a mentor. Find that person, create the video and send it to them and be relentless. Now, I run after my mentors. If I'm very interested in having you as my mentor, I'm going to stalk you, I'm going to send you emails. I'm going to find out everything about your life that you wouldn't even know, right? Like even subliminally, right? You like the color blue potentially. You're a young guy. You're in this world. You're creating a podcast. You're automatically creating value. You have mentors of your own. So if I want to get in touch with you, I'm going to follow you on LinkedIn, social, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, find out exactly who you are. And then let's say, who's your favorite football team?
Arsenal. I'm from the UK, so I'll say
okay,
Arsenal.
So cool. Arsenal. Favorite football player?
Yeah. Thierry Henry.
There you go. Right. So
yeah.
I would find an honorary jersey on eBay and I would send it to you and I would say, I want you to be my mentor. Let's meet. I'll fly to you. How compelling is that?
Very.
That's what it takes in today's day and age. I think people have gotten too lazy, right? People have gotten too lazy to say, hey, I'm going to send you an email and then I'm going to expect an email back from you saying, hey, yeah, of course, let's totally, I have no problem teaching you. I'm more than happy to be your mentor. It doesn't happen like that as much anymore, right? We have to prove ourselves and prove the value. Like my mentors kick my butt every single day. But the reason that I have them around is because they're kicking my butt every single day. And the reason I got them is because I had to kick my butt to even get that meeting, to get that mentorship, to get that guidance on a very regular basis and to be able to think bigger. It's very much like a personal trainer, right? If you want the right personal trainer, you have to go after that personal trainer and say, I want you. So that's the key. You have to take the action. If you're not going to take the action, if you're not going to get on these forums online or like what you're doing, start a podcast, because it takes it takes a certain element of being vulnerable, right?
Absolutely.
Like when you did the first one, you're like, holy cow, what am I going to say? I'm so nervous. And the same thing happened to me. I'm like, are people even going to listen to me? What's going on? Right. And then you have all these doubts and I don't even know. So you go through that, but you're going through that for a reason. And the same stuff happens when you're finding mentors. If you're not taking action on this stuff, you're not stepping up to the plate and giving yourself a chance, then there is no chance.
Huh. So kind of like, let's turn it around before we go to some of the deals that you've done. So let's talk about mindset, right? I really love what you shared about mindset. How is that? I mean, I love your approach in terms of, getting someone's attention. It could be a mentor, it could be a business partner, but how does that willpower or whatever we call it, how does that help you every day to kind of get the desired result that you want?
Leverage. If I have the mindset of a failure of a person, then am I going to get the result that I want tomorrow? Absolutely not. But if I have the mindset of somebody that's going to be better tomorrow than I am today and today than I was yesterday, then I'm progressing and I'm moving forward. Right now, I am not going to expect that I'm going to grow like leaps and bounds 110% every single day after day after day. I think that's a very unrealistic expectation, right? That's like saying, I'm going to start off with bicep curls at say 15 pounds. And then the next day I'm going to will my biceps to be able to do curls of 65 pounds. It's not going to happen, right? Like the human body's not built for that. Very similarly, that doesn't happen in real life. We have to be realistic with the approach and say, you know what? I'm going to do this. And I'm going to lay that foundation of success with the words that I'm telling myself. Because that's really important, right? What I tell myself, what I let into my head, what I let into my brain, and what I process is really important. If I don't pay attention to that and I'm watching, say, I don't know, CNN all day, then I'm not feeling good about my world. I'm not feeling good about the economy. I'm not feeling good about what's going on right now. And then that thought manifests into negative feelings and negative thoughts. And then guess what happens to opportunity? It's not going to be there. So having that success mindset and opportunistic mindset and a mindset that says, hey, you know what? I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help you. I'm here to add value. What can I do for you without any expectation in return? Right? Like I could have just as easily on this thing said, hey, you know what, man? Listen, I want you to pay me $1,000. Then I'm going to do a podcast thing with you. Right?
I've heard that before. That would not be the first time.
Yeah.
By the way, for the listeners, so you guys know.
Yeah, but it's like, why? Right? It's you're coming from a totally different perspective. And I understand the time is very important. I get that, but on some level, if you have seen success and you've seen the financial gain, you should want others to be there with you. And that's the entire point of this journey we call life, right? It's not about me, and more and me. Hey, look at how awesome I am. It's about how we can accomplish this together and go rock the world together. And if we don't have that mindset, then we're not going to attract the type of opportunities and the type of people and the type of mindset that we need in our lives. And then I'm able to leverage that and take that to every single conversation, right? Like imagine now I'm thinking about how can I add value to you instead of what can I take from this interaction with somebody. And just yesterday, I met with an individual, Chris. He has a brokerage in Atlanta. Last year, I think he said he had 61 or 62 agents, and they did roughly 62, 63 million in sales. This year, he has 100. He was able to grow that to 120 agents and turn that around to be. He's on pace to finish out the year doing 150 million in sales. The guy is 30 years old.
Wow.
Excuse me, right? Like it's check the ego at the door at this point. What can I do to help you? What are you working on? Are you creating a video series about something, or do you have a pot? What can I do for you so that you can make more money and you can create more impact for your people?
I love that, because just when you mentioned how can I serve you, I don't know if you've read 3 Feet from Gold. It's kind of like the sequel to, already, to Think and Grow Rich. And,
absolutely.
Just for our Dwell listeners, pretty much almost every kind of successful people that Greg, who wrote the book, met, they would always ask, how may I serve you? How can I help you? So it's that mentality of how can I help you? Not just, how can I, like you said, get from you? And I think that takes a special kind of person to kind of reorientate their mindset, because usually most people are like, me, what can I get? It's very self-centered, especially with millennials. We get,
yes,
we get that a lot. So I think that's really fascinating to have that mindset.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure our Dwell listeners would, want to, indulge you and want to hear about one of your fascinating deals, or maybe not so fantastic deal. Just give us an example of a deal that perhaps you liked and what are the numbers?
Yeah, so I think it's easy to talk about success, right? It's really easy to talk about how much money one makes on a deal, and not enough people like to talk about their failures. I'm one of those people. I love talking about my failures. I love being able to just stare it in the face and say, you know what? I dominated this even though it was a failure. And I talk about this one a lot because it's an important one to really know, because it talks about the numbers, it talks about timeline, it talks about relationships, and really getting to know who you're working with. So I purchased a lot. It was a house, actually, not a lot. So we had to tear down the house. But the objective for this deal was to tear down the house and build a new house. It was absolutely new construction. This is in an area in Atlanta called Old Fourth Ward. At the time when we bought it, it wasn't so hot. And now it's on fire. Days on market in Old Fourth Ward are like less than 10 days. You valuations over there. Yeah. Valuations over there for a 3-bed, 2.5-bath house are between $800,000, $900,000. It's crazy. When we bought the property, it was on the corner of East Avenue and Fortune. The address is 636 East Avenue. And when I bought it, we purchased it for roughly around $200,000. And that was the house and the property and everything. It was a corner lot. When we bought it, we wanted to develop, at the time we were looking at developing more relationships with lenders, because it's always a good idea to kind of diversify that effort a little bit. One lender may run out of capital or may be a little bit over leveraged. So you always want to make sure that you have multiple lenders in your back pocket. We should have done more due diligence on this lender, but we said, you know what? No problem. He's out in the Northeast. He seems to have some money. This is his first residential deal in Atlanta, and this is his first residential deal ever because he was a multifamily investor. I thought to myself, you know what? No big deal. He understands numbers. He understands, stuff happens, things like this. And this was maybe, 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago now, something like that. And we decided to put down payment. We put down 20%. Got the land, We had to go through zoning. We had to go and get build permits, demo permits, and all that stuff. We got the permits, but during the time we were going to get permits and going through that process, the city of Atlanta was really slow. This was a time when activity was really picking up. There were a lot of builders and a lot of homeowners saying, hey, you know what? I need to apply for permits. And the city got really bogged down. It took us about 6 months to get permits. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
Our lender said, are you kidding me? 6 months? This is not right. There's something going on here. And we're pretty communicative. I mean, we know when something is right and when things are going wrong. So we like to communicate that with folks. And we're communicating that with our lender, but he wasn't having any of it. I'm like, all right, fine. We finally get our permits. We're ready to go, right? Our construction budget was $200,000. So the acquisition was $200. Construction budget, was $250. We're going to build a 3-bed, 2.5-bathroom house, 3 floors, modern build. It would have a rooftop deck overlooking the skyline of Atlanta. Yes, It would have been beautiful. The ARV on this thing, the after repair value with comps on a pretty tight comp box within about 1/10 of a mile, I would have been able to resell at $725.
Okay.
A pretty awesome margin. So you're looking out over $250,000 in net.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I still kick my butt on this deal even today because we didn't make that.
Oh.
So the lender said, you have to figure out a way to either sell this property or refinance with somebody else because I'm pulling the loan. Like, I'm not interested in continuing on this project because it's taken too long. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm not comfortable with how the city was handling the permitting process. Said, okay, we have the permits. We can go ahead and get this done. I mean, we can go ahead and build this. Yeah, we can go ahead and build this. It'll be built and sold in 4 months. And this was, I think, maybe month 7 out of month 12. Okay. And that's how far we were along the line in our term with our lender. Said, you know what? Fine, we'll find somebody else. So we ended up actually wholesaling that to a builder who then bought it from us at, I think he bought it at $260. So we came out making like, I don't know, $1,000 or something. Yeah, terrible. And then he ended up turning around and selling it for like $900,000.
Oh.
So you talk about a potential profit loss. I mean, that we lost a good amount of profit on that deal, or that was the potential profit that we made. So I'm not really going to say that as a loss, but the potential profit would have been phenomenal. But if we had done the homework up front to really understand the lender, his motivations, and just asked some additional questions, we would have pretty much pivoted and found another lender. So the lesson here is ask all the questions in the world, trust but verify. And if you have the opportunity, take it, but don't get into bed with the wrong people.
Wow. How do you undo this? I mean, how do you sleep? I mean, that is a huge, sounds like a setback. So how do you, in your mind at least, undo such a situation?
I don't think you undo it. You know, I think you accept it for what it is. You accept the mistake that you made, and you vow to yourself that you'll never make that mistake again. And that's what we did. And then the next day was just business as usual. We closed on it. We said, yeah, this sucks. And I went out, I had a drink, and then I said, you know what? This isn't going to happen to me again. And I just laughed it off, because what more can you do but laugh at yourself?
Huh. Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I was expecting the big, we made like, 300,000, and I just got
I mean, that's the sexy stuff, whatever. I don't like talking about that. I like talking about the failures, because that's really where you're tested, right? That your mindset is tested, your personality is tested, your grit is tested, your team is tested. My business partner and I, we were just fighting back and forth. We're like, this is wrong. We have to be able to finish this project. What's going on here? But you know what? We still stood the test of time. And I would say, luckily, my mentor, and now he's my business partner since 2008. He's 10 years older than me. So he brings this nice, soothing voice of reason, which is why now I have this soothing voice for the podcast. That's the only reason why. But he adds this element of of rationale, sophistication, and saying, you know what, it's okay. Let's move on to the next one.
Wow, I'm looking forward to kind of evolve into that radio soothing voice too. I think I'm kind of making my way there right now.
Hey, you got it. You got it. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was really really good to learn from. We're actually looking at a flip right now too, so I definitely have to keep you updated on that.
Sure thing.
So we're definitely dwelling into the quick rounds now. This is going to be quick questions, quick answers.
Let's do it.
So what would you say is the differentiating factor or trait that separates you from the next guy or the next gal?
Awareness of self, awareness of my business partners, awareness of the market, and not being greedy. I'm not greedy. I check my ego at the door with every single meeting. It's just, I'm super upfront with people, and I like it that way. It just makes sense for me. I'm not looking at making a killing for every single deal that I do. If we end up making a lot of money, that's great. But you know what? It's not the objective. The objective is long-term wealth building and understanding what that means, understanding where the market is, and pivoting and adjusting accordingly really is what differentiates us from what other people are doing.
Thank you so much. That's a fantastic question. It's so funny when you're talking, I'm like, that's exactly how I feel. Like, that's exactly how I feel. So that's awesome. That is awesome. Share the same values. What was the last book that you read, and what was the one nugget that you took from that book?
I would say it's right here. I'm still reading it.
Oh,
Principles.
Ray Dalio. Yep.
Yes, Principles by Ray Dalio. And then I have another one. The Landlord Entrepreneur. I did a podcast on this just a little while ago, and I'm just going to read from this. I took this. The 5 phases of real estate are as follows. 1 is acquisition. The 2nd is implementation. The 3rd is stabilization. The 4th is growth. And the 5th is exit strategy. I love the way that this is laid out. I highly recommend this book for anybody that's interested in either managing property or even owning single family rentals, because it talks about those stages and it talks about what matters in that order, and that all professional investors need to know those 5 things.
Awesome. Wow. That's fascinating. I saw an interview by Ray Dalio on Bloomberg.
Yes.
And it was just really fascinating stuff.
It's
Love
incredible.
It. Yeah. Yep. Last question. You've got, your single family deals, you've got the multi-family stuff. Your podcast, the Real Estate Deal Talk, is awesome. I follow that. What do you do for fun?
I work out and I travel. I really enjoy just kind of getting out of the city and just taking it in, because we work so hard every day. There's so much that's going on. And I've even had to make that adjustment, right? Like there's certain points in time where I'm just not taking any time away from work, and making that conscious effort to do that is really important. And I love traveling. If I could just travel like every weekend or every other weekend and chill out in a new city, make new friends, and have a good glass of wine, that's totally my thing.
Awesome. Fantastic. So I'm somebody, listening to this in Buckhead somewhere. And I'm like, I like this Abhi guy. This guy's my neighbor. This guy's in the same state as I am, and I want to get to know him or invest with him. How can people get through to you? How can people stalk you? Like you said, how can people find you?
Yeah, I would say I'm kind of everywhere. I love social. I'm really quirky on like Snapchat and Instagram and stuff. I'll go live when I'm like on a treadmill, and it's just my style. But I would say go to realestatedealtalk.com. It's my home. It's where I live. It's where I'm constantly updating information, whether it's a radio show or a podcast or a YouTube show or answering questions or writing articles, blogs, whatever. That's the culmination of everything that I'm doing online. So that's the best way to reach me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Abhi. I learned so much today, and it's absolutely a pleasure to learn from you and finally, catch up with you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for